You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hey folks, it's Voss here from the Chris Voss Show.com. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There are latest things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you but doesn't judge you quite not as harshly as the rest of your family. You might be that black sheep in the family, the one who's the smart one, who's learning to be better with your life, good with your life. You're always working on improving yourself because you're listening to the Chris Voss Show, and that's what you do on the Chris Voss Show. You make your life better. So anyway, we have an amazing young man on the show today. We're going to get into it with him. But in the meantime, I need you to do me a favor, a solid, as the kids call it. Go to Goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss1 on the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today's featured author comes to us from bookstolifemarketing.co.uk. With expert publishing to strategic marketing, they help authors reach their audience and maximize their book's success. Today we have Daniel Martinovich on the show. He is the author of the book called The Bible's Prophecy About the Free World, out September 14th, 2022. We're going to talk to him about his book, some of his insights, his ministries, etc., and some of the things he thinks we have coming down the pike here, because you never know. It's a weird world. 2025 has been kind of weird so far anyway. Daniel, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am excellent. It's glad to have you. Give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
I have a teaching website called wordservice.org.
Mm-hmm.
Has lots of pages on there. Some articles on there have been number one on our Google search, or at least on the first page for decades. And it's all Bible teaching stuff and history and America's founding, that type of thing.
So give us a little bit of lowdown about you and who you are and what you do.
I've been a Christian for about 42 years now, and a lot of basically been in vocational ministry that almost the entire time. Wasn't full-time for a little while. But I had lots of kids, 6 kids, and that takes a lot of time. Them, raising kids with a family, and the internet, when it started to come out about 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah.
1996 is when we started to get into that. I just saw a great opportunity in it to where you could reach the world without, spending a whole bunch of money or having to raise a whole bunch of money.
It's really nice, the internet. I like it. Some parts of it. Let's put it that way. I don't like the whole internet because there's a bunch of weirdness that goes on the dark web. But yeah, it's kind of nice. I grew up in the brick and mortar world when you started businesses and you had to spend all this money to build get an office, lease an office, deposits, and then you had to put all the stuff in it. And yeah, it's a whole lot easier to pay $20 to GoDaddy and you have a business on the web.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you can probably reach more people. I think there's a lot of teleministries, aren't there, or internet ministries now?
Yeah. My website's getting about 12,000 or 13,000 visits a month by about 8,000 or 9,000 different people and 200,000 hits. But the hits don't really mean that much.
Yeah.
So
some of it's bot related, but yeah, that's still a lot of interest. So that's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. You talk about this book, The Bible's Prophecy About the Free World, and so give us an idea of what this is. Are you focusing on what the Bible said about maybe things that are coming down the pike? I mean, I just kind of want to know if there's something going on tomorrow I need to schedule, or the end of the world, things along those lines. Tell us about some of the prophecies that you discuss in the book.
First off, it's what the prophecies I'm focusing on are the ones that were to occur after the Roman Empire ended.
Okay.
That was 1453 AD, when what had been its capital since 333 AD, Constantinople, fell. And that is when Daniel chapter 2 and Daniel chapter 7 and the book of Revelation said we would see this phenomena of a growing free world. And I'll just say what happened is that's when the Bible got into the hands of the general public, right? Exactly at that time. With the invention of the printing press, the powers that existed were pretty much able to keep a lid on it. It was illegal to have a Bible without permission from the authorities. All that time. And so these Bibles are legal.
That would be afraid of, I don't know, uprising, dissidents.
Exactly. This was kings and emperors, and they rightly understood. I don't know why Christians don't understand that today, but they rightly understood that the Bible in the hands of the general public was a threat to their rule.
Wow.
That's why you see that. That's why you see any dictatorship today tries to keep the Bible out of people's hands. The USSR did. North Korea does. Any Islamic dictatorship tries that. They all eventually lose, but that's why. It's really, to them, it's very fundamental. This is a threat to our rule, and that's why we got this free world. I mean, right when that empire fell, Northern Europe got them first. And they tried to take them away, and that was followed by another first in human history was they were able to fight off the armies that came to take that, because they did send military force to stop what they considered a cancer. Yeah. So you got the Dutch Republic up there for 200 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And just think of this. In the Dutch Republic, in the 7 major cities, you had to to be a citizen, you had to own a Bible, prove that you read it every day, and you had to own a firearm. Now, then right across the border, you could still get burned at the stake for having a Bible. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
You don't travel in that case, then you don't.
Yeah, it was rough
over there.
It was very, very rough, very bad time. But the thinking that developed up there migrated over to North America, and this free world, because that's what it was. It was a Dutch Republic. It was actually a free country. I've not studied it too much, but in North America, and now ever since then, no matter what happens to try and stop it, the free world's still growing. And this didn't exist in the ancient world. There was nothing like this. It was great when these prophecies were written. It was crazy. How would you like the world's most powerful men to, like in the Roman Empire, for instance, back then, to be sacrificing animals? It was imposed on the public, the worship of idols. And the high priesthood that was government officials would study the entrails of how the animals plopped on the ground to make government policy. You don't see that in the movies.
Wow.
It was crazy. And so in that backdrop, these prophecies were written. I like to point the people to Mel Gibson's movie. What's that movie?
The one about Jesus?
No, down in the Amazon or on Central America, Apocalypto.
Oh yeah, I didn't.
It's very gory, but they show a procession where they capture a bunch of other tribal members and they bring them up and sacrifice them on these things, and that was half the world back then.
Yeah, I might just try that just to make sure it doesn't work. I might take a steak and throw it on the floor next time I get one and just see how the splatter works and see if maybe it'll tell me some good stock market or Bitcoin investment data.
Worth a try. Or you could ask AI, one or the other.
Hey, that's a good idea. I should try that. Maybe that might be better. Why did they do that back then? Ask AI.
The world was just dark. This is something that God wants. God wants the world to totally change and become free and justice. He wants good government, limited government, because that's always the problem. The problem has always been unlimited government. Government has caused most of the evils the world has ever seen. And when it gets too big, you just have this class of people that want to run it. They live their lives to run the thing and run your lives and take your money. It's really, the love of money is the root of all evil things.
There you go.
So God prophesied how the Bible prophesies how this was all going to change after the Roman Empire fell. And that's the only thing different that happened, was the Bible made its way into the people's hands, the general public's hands.
And so the free world.
There's the book right there.
Yeah. Now, when you refer to the free world, what are you talking about? Kind of the free world that like America built, or just the free world that's free of the arcane sacrificing and stifled governments that say, hey, we only have one religion, this is our religion. We eliminate all the other competition. You can't, like when the pioneers came here, they were seeking freedom religion from kind of, I think, the Church of England, or something like that. Okay. Because I want to make sure I understood the concept of the free world, and I guess free to read whatever you want for fun, right?
Yeah, that's basically freedom from despotic government, like kings and emperors. That's that's the rule of the will of man, not the rule of a rule of law. Republics based on objective truth is really what it's talking about.
Okay.
And so you see right now, I mean, before the whole world was all kings and emperors, and now the whole idea of a king or an emperor is like an abomination to everyone. Nobody believes in that kind of government anymore. We don't like dictatorships, and even dictators sit there and say, "It's the will of the people. I'm elected." That's how the world's just changed in the 500 years. This is 500 years. I'm knocking stuff around here, waving my hands. My wife always
is
yells
that powerful.
Yeah. So that's what it is. It doesn't say it's going to be a utopia. It says there's going to be a lot of warfare to try and stop it from growing, this free world, and that's what we've seen. But it's not like the straight line up better and better and better. It's more like that, but it's going up.
In the book, is it pretty much a detailed historical thing of the struggles of trying to bring the Bible to the public and get freedom where people can have access to it? Is that
no? Because there's so much written about that already. Yeah,
okay.
That's very, very standard Christian writing. This is just focusing. A third of the book is chapters from the Bible.
Okay.
And I guess I know what happened. I mean, World War I, World War II, the rise of the progressive movement, which basically means government runs everything. Because before that, people actually understood those prophecies. And in the last 100 years, boy, we just went off of them. And it's all end time prophecy. It's all the end of the world stuff. And the Bible doesn't even prophesy the end of the world. It prophesies the end of certain nations and certain empires, and it actually gives the dates. And so I don't understand why people just ignore that. They just ignore the date that the Bible says this is going to happen. They ignore the empire that it's speaking about. I mean, it names the empire that's going to end at this certain time. They just ignore that and say this is talking about the end of the world. And you're just going. And once the Bible colleges started teaching this stuff, it just kind of went mainstream. And so I think the world needs to get back to Isaiah chapter 60 and 61 and 62 and Isaiah chapter 54, because what they talk about is you've heard of the New Jerusalem, right? Right. The last two chapters of Revelation. There's about a couple dozen chapters of prophecy about the New Jerusalem, but it's in the Old Testament, and they define Revelation. Revelation is not heaven. Revelation is an illustration. New Jerusalem is an illustration of God's people oppressed for the time prior to the end of the Roman Empire. God's people oppressed, and New Jerusalem oppressed this whole time. I'll give you an example. When a certain emperor took control, he's referred to as the little horn of Daniel 7, Septimus Severus. Death penalty for becoming a Christian. That was 193 AD was the beginning of his reign. And when you get up to the Christian emperors, and I'm not saying Christianity, the Christianity of those empires wasn't a step up from the madness of idolatry. But the Emperor Justinian, he was really a famous, tried to reestablish the whole empire around 508 or not 500, around that time, around the 5th century AD. He made it the death penalty to get baptized as an adult if you were baptized as a baby before. Because see, before you're baptized into the imperial church. After getting baptized as an adult, you're committing treason against the emperor.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So that's oppression. So here the true Christians were oppressed by this all the way up until the Roman Empire, and they got Bibles, and they had to win their freedom. It wasn't just all of a sudden this is just changing. No, they had to win it. They had to fight for it. We have to fight for it now. We have to fight for freedom. There's always somebody trying to control.
Yep. Yeah. People are always trying to control you. Yeah. Governments and everything else.
And so, and like I said in the back page of my book, I said there's about 100 chapters of prophecy about this free world. That's a lot. That's the book of Revelation is all talking about all that judgment and Revelation. A little bit of it is talking about the destruction of Jerusalem, but most of it's all aimed at the Roman Empire. And that's all in there. It's all in there. What happened, when it happened, what this was talking about. I mean, the very first big one was Cyprian's plague against the Roman Empire. That fell on there. That killed a third of the people in the empire. That's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
Destroyed their infrastructure, and so that's what all those judgments are. They were murdering all the Christians they could get a hold of.
Yeah, there's a lot of murdering going on back then.
So that kind of brings that upon them. I'm not saying God sent it, but you go doing stuff like that, and there's a lot of bad stuff will happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of everyone was killing everybody back then.
Yeah,
I think.
That is true.
Interesting.
That's something that's.
Thank God we're a little bit better than that. I don't know that we really are. With we got a couple wars cooking around the world there. Human nature. We're kind of an interesting little species got going on there. So tell us about how you were raised. What were some of your influences, your story of your journey through life? When did you first discover religion, and when did you kind of know you want to start a ministry and have a calling for it?
It's nothing spectacular. I just was a young man.
All right, we'll just skip it then, Daniel.
Yeah, there's nothing. I had read part of the Bible as a young person. I'm talking preteen and tween. And to me, I knew, because I had also read the Quran back then, and I've always liked to read stuff. I read the Quran, I read some of the Hindu Sanskrit, and I just thought, that the Bible's the Word of God. To me, it just seemed that way to me back then. But that's not like I wanted to do what it said. And so I pretty much was a very, very bad kid, really bad kid.
You were a bad kid?
Oh yeah, in trouble with the law.
Trouble.
It was horrible. My parents did not deserve what I did to them, was all I can tell you.
Really?
But around 22, God had been calling me all this time. Around 22, I became a Christian by reading the Bible. I had never read the New Testament. I had read the Torah. I'd read the book of Revelation. I read Daniel when I was a little kid.
Oh, really?
I never read the New Testament. When I read it, I came to the Lord right away. Just cried myself. That's how I was going to hell. And I cried myself to sleep and just woke up, and everything was new. And everything just seemed new to me. And a few years later, I just felt the call into the ministry and started studying like a madman. And the funny thing is about this, so I got married, and I had been like quoting Isaiah 6. I was very zealous, so part of my devotions were like quoting whole chapters of the Bible to myself.
Wow.
Just my own, like Isaiah 6, arise and shine, your light has come, the glory of the Lord is risen upon you. For behold, darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people, but the Lord will rise upon you, and his glory shall be seen upon you. The Gentiles, the nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. That's talking about the New Jerusalem.
Wow. Good job, man. That's good memory.
I'm not even doing that anymore. I should be reading it off my phone here.
I've gotten too old to remember stuff of anything. I have to wake up in the morning and check the mirror and be like, who's this? Who's this raggedy old man before me? Oh, it's me. Who's the guy who looks homeless? No, I do look homeless in the morning, but it takes a lot of coffee to move the machine.
That's me too.
Yeah. feel you.
Yeah. So one day I'm reading all these scriptures every day for a couple years, and it says right above, if you got a study Bible, it'll say New Jerusalem right above chapter 60, and it has all kinds of references because Revelation quotes Isaiah chapter 60 more than any other chapter of the Bible, and it's New Jerusalem. And my wife and I had moved back to Texas. We kind of got our butts whooped out in California in the ministry. Moved back to Texas, and people are going to think this is crazy, but an angel of the Lord walked right into the room. We're on the first night there. We're sleeping on our friend's living room floor. Mm-hmm. We didn't see him, and all he did was start opening our minds about, hey, this is the end game. All these chapters I'm quoting, Isaiah 60, 61. That's God's aim. That's what He's trying to do in the world. And that's how blind I was, and that's how blind people can be to those chapters. They're very clear. Somebody's just got to point it out. It just so happened an angel pointed it out to us. I have a lot of success in pointing it out to other people now. But and I started telling people about it, and they were just like, in the circles I ran with, what planet? Are you from Mars or something?
Wow.
Just because I was looking at it as a future thing. I didn't really know at that time. I mean, this is 35 years ago. I didn't know at that time that, hey, wait a minute, we're already living this out. It wasn't like this all the time. And so it's just a road of discovery from that point on to realize, hey, wait a minute, the United States is founded on all of this stuff. And it just was a shock to me. But now it's more of a thing that we just got to get back to the good book on these issues, because it's not about the end of the world. It's about transforming the world and making it a better place. And like here's a prophecy about people getting in the Bible. Isaiah 29:18. In that day the deaf will hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. The meek will also increase their joy in the Lord, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. For the terrible one, and what you look up that word in the Hebrew, that's talking about kings and emperors and dictators and world conquerors, is brought to nothing. And scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. That's just basically what we see happening. And that's just a little verse there. I mean,
yeah.
And nothing. Go ahead.
Okay. Are there any prophecies that maybe haven't been fulfilled that we should know about? Because, like I said, I'm scheduling stuff for next month and want to make sure I have the end
about
of the
that.
world again.
No, you'd have to go find prophets who are accurate for that kind of thing, and there's not too many of them out there.
I'm going to consult.
And I'm not one of them.
I'll throw a stake on the ground, see what happens with the blood splat.
I can tell you something crazy about that, but all of these prophets that you'll see on the internet, all these prophets, I'm not saying they're not real Christians. I'm not saying they don't really hear from God or they're not prophetic people, but end time prophecy teachings are the poison to accurate prophecy. They are absolute. They make it so they can't, because if God is bringing the world in one direction and they think it's going another direction, anything God even tells them is going to be perverted once they speak it out to you, because they're not coming from the same place He is. They're not coming from the Scripture. And so I've seen some very accurate prophets prophesy things that were going to happen in the next 10 years. But back then, they didn't believe in end time prophecy. And then I've watched those same prophets start accepting these end time teachings and just watched them go south. It's the most amazing thing, because it's just that's not where the world is headed. The world is not getting worse and worse. The world is getting better and better. It's a rough road. It has to be one, but our faith is supposed to be in these, not on end time prophecies that aren't even talking about the end of the world. They're like I said, talking about the end of empires and certain kingdoms and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we'd had one time on the show a gentleman who was a Bible scholar, and he'd written a book talking about Armageddon and that whole thing at the end of the Bible Revelations, I think it is. And his claim was he'd written a lot of books on the Bible, and his claim was that Armageddon had already happened. It was angled towards, I think, what you said, like a Roman king or something. And it was kind of around the same time that Paul was alive, or Peter, or Who was kind of the end guy there making the call on the revelations?
Yeah, that would probably be preterism.
Okay.
Which teaches that the Bible, all of Revelation, all of prophecy was fulfilled with the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. And it's absurd, because Daniel already says there's going to be 4 empires. It names the 4 empires, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greek, and Roman.
Mm-hmm.
It says, it distinctly says, the world is going to be fulfilled with the knowledge of the Lord after the Roman Empire ends. And it had to be, because we got Bibles to read. People didn't really know that. And so they're not looking, they just don't know that. They didn't look at Daniel chapter 2. There's Daniel 2 and Daniel 7 that has the same prophecy spoken in different ways. As the Bible goes on from those prophecies, it just gives more details of them. Uh-huh. And so they don't look at that, and they think they've discovered some big thing when they discovered that, like Matthew 24 and is talking about the destruction of Jerusalem. Well, big deal. Okay, that's who. I mean, I realize that a lot of Christians don't know that, but that's been known for thousands of years. So you've discovered that. Now you think all prophecy has to fit in that. It doesn't. No, it's we just. It's kind of silly. It all centers around the doctrine, the people's doctrine of the second coming of the Lord. And you know what? That phrase isn't even in the Bible, the second coming.
Oh, really? It's not?
No, not in the Bible anywhere.
Who's making that up, and why?
That's an interpretation of certain prophecies in the New Testament. And so the preachers believe the second coming happened in 70 AD. The others believe the second coming. They all argue and fight over when this is going to happen, and the end of the world. But they ignore all of the times where the coming of the Lord is a biblical doctrine. And Jesus came down. Remember, I don't know if you know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, right?
Yeah.
Jesus comes down with 2 angels and has a discussion with Abraham. Abraham addresses him as Jehovah like 18 times. Why does he have to come down to the planet to discuss with Abraham about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah? And then Jesus comes down again in the burning bush with Moses. And he says, I have come down because I've heard the cry of my people. I've come down now I'm going to punish Egypt, and I'm going to deliver them from that. And so you see this all through the Old Testament. That's just in the book of Genesis. But you go through all through the Old Testament, and there's probably 24 times where the coming of the Lord to judge a certain kingdom or empire uses the exact same language as Matthew does and Revelation does, but it's addressed to a certain empire or kingdom back then. And people my guess is that people accept these teachings before they're ever familiar enough with the Bible to realize, wait a minute, Jesus has been coming to earth for thousands of years, and he'll continue doing that. So in Revelation 19, that's the coming of the Lord at the end of the Roman Empire to judge really the whole system of the ancient world and to bring this promise of a growing free world. And billions of people accepting Christ. I mean, right now, as we're speaking, there's 50,000 people today that are accepting Christ somewhere in the world. It's not here in the United States, but it's all Africa, South America, China. 10,000 Muslims a day are coming to Christ. That's what the Bible says is going to happen. And the Lord still comes. I mean, when I tell you, people used to understand this. Remember the Civil War? And what was the North song about that? My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. Okay, they understood that this was the coming of the Lord to judge America because they weren't doing what the Bible said. The Bible promised an end to legal slavery. And people were holding back on that. All these Christians in the South are holding back on that. And that brought the Civil War. And they understood that was. I mean, that song is amazing. When you read all the verses to it, that was the general doctrine of the churches back then. And then, like I said, the 20th century, things just kind of went crazy. And you can't blame people. I mean, it was horrible. World War I, World War II, and the world never saw anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty insane. I mean,
Yeah.
World War I's trench warfare and stuff. So tell us about your ministries, your website. I see a lot of stories and teachings on your website. Fill us in as that gap as we round out the show.
Most of it is about Bible prophecy, and it's not because I just specialize in that area. It's just I only have so much time to write. I mean, I'm a work, but there are other subjects on there, and I am not very proficient in writing and understanding of the English language and grammar. In fact, my wife calls me pretty pathetic. She says I'm getting better. So as far as the prophecy portion of that, I put that in the book. Actually, I was moving to northern Arizona. I was going to start a church, had it all planned out, had a group of people up there, and get up there, and COVID hits.
Oh, yeah, that ruined a lot.
It just blew that out of the water, man.
Mm-hmm. Was that in the prophecies?
No. So that's why I decided to write the book. It's all that stuff is in my webpage, but the book is professionally edited and stuff. So you're going to look at my website and go, God, this guy doesn't even know how to spell or put a coherent sentence down. Okay, but that's what I say. The book is professionally edited. It's done very well, very convincing.
Where can people tune into your ministries?
I'm not making any podcasts yet. I'm going to do that when I retire in 2 more years. I'm going to start making podcasts, and it'll be on that website.
Okay.
There is some audio on there from past times I was teaching at a church or something.
Okay. All right, then. So give people, as we go out, a final pitch out to order the book, get to know you better online. Anything more you think we need to cover, maybe we didn't touch on here?
Yeah, just people, the world needs hope. Our whole country now believes that the whole world believes the world's going to end. All right. Isn't it just like God to say the exact opposite? I mean, you can go to any of the ancient religions, you go to any Hollywood movie. You show me a Hollywood movie that doesn't have a dystopian end unless it has aliens involved in it. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a much better world that man creates and gets there. It's all dystopian. It's all end of the world. It's all we're going to kill everything off. Wouldn't it just be like the Bible to say the exact opposite thing as everybody else? I mean, the Quran. I read the first 133 pages of the Quran. Every other chapter says you have to believe in 3 things: Allah, His Messenger, and the end times. And you're just going, of course, Muhammad would get that out of the Bible. And the end time. It's carnal. It's not very spiritual. It's not really digging into it and letting God teach you this rather than accepting these narratives before you've ever really become familiar with it yourself anyway. So that's the issue. If an army is going to defeat you, if you're going to be defeated in war, one of the things of warfare is to convince you that you've lost. Is that not true? To convince you that you've lost, to convince you that you're defeated. So here, if you look at these prophecies, these 100 chapters of prophecy, you're going to say, wait a minute, this is not defeat. This is us. This is the good guys winning. And it's not talking about a theocracy. There's never going to be a theocracy. The founding fathers of the United States they were educated in the Bible from their childhood all the way to the university, and they did not found a theocracy. And do you know why that is? Because the Bible doesn't allow for a theocracy. That's beyond the pale of limited God. It gives the government too much power that they shouldn't have. And so that's what I mean. So you don't have to be afraid and think, oh my gosh, these Christians are talking about taking over the world and making it. No, they're not. It's talking about republics based on objective truth, where you get to vote, you get to participate, like the United States. That's the direction the world's headed, and we need to believe in that. And if you believe, see, these things come by faith. If we have faith in God on this issue, He's going to work with us along these lines and help bring the world to that point. But if we believe the opposite, what's He supposed to do? I mean, so that's my pitch.
And give us the .coms as we go out. Tell people where we can buy the book, et cetera, et cetera.
You can buy the book anywhere: Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. My publisher's Westbow Press. Just type in the Bible's prophecy about the free world. It'll just pop right up on your browser all over the place. I noticed some weird website that's claiming authorship for it the other day. I don't understand what that is. I'm going to have to deal with that. But
they also on Amazon?
Yeah, it's on Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes there's this kind of weird thing where there's all these companies that will buy your book on Amazon and then resell it at a higher price. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I see that. You see that a lot now.
It's all over the world on those kind of companies. That's right. It's still my book.
That's crazy.
And so and you can read the first 4 chapters on those big websites on Amazon or Barnes and Noble. They'll let you read the first 4 chapters on there, and it comes in audio, not audio yet, but ebook or hardcover and hardcover and what's the other one? Softcover. And again, wordservice.org. It's on there too. It'll lead you to the Amazon website or whatever.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been very insightful, and it's an interesting setup that you got going on there. And people can reach out to your ministry. People can find out more about you and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you. And thanks, Simonis, for tuning in. Order up the book wherever fine books are sold. It's called The Bible's Prophecy About the Free World, out September 14th, 2022. You can find out more about it and Daniel's works on his website. Thanks, Simonis, for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time.
All right.